In 2013, the world saw the launch of Super Mario 3D World. This game was extremely different from all other 3D Marios that released before it. It was much more linear, had multiple playable characters, incorporated a lot of elements from 2D Mario, and also had these weird levels where you took control of Captain Toad from Super Mario Galaxy, and had to navigate around these bite-sized levels where you couldn't jump, but instead had to use the environment around you to solve puzzles and collect all the green stars in the stage. These levels weren't bad per se, they actually were quite clever and took advantage of Captain Toad's limitations well, but once you were done with them, you didn't really think all that too much about them. They were just some side thing compared to the main game of 3D World. But in June of 2014, only just 6 months after the release of Super Mario 3D World, Nintendo shocked everyone at E3 with the announcement of a brand new game. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. A game entirely based around those throwaway side levels from 3D World. And today, I want to give this game an honest chance, because I feel like nobody talks about it anymore. And really, just answer one simple question. Is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker actually good? Initially released on December 5th, 2014 here in North America, and then later re-released as a port on July 13th, 2018 for the Nintendo Switch and 3DS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is the first and only game in the Captain Toad series. Even predating the actual game itself though, the core idea of Treasure Tracker came to Super Mario 3D World level designer Shinya Hiratake in a dream. This dream, however, an initial prototype, originally featured Link as the protagonist, rather than any Mario character, as Mario characters are pretty well known for jumping. And when presented with Hiratake's tech demo of Link exploring small condensed diorama-style levels, Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto shut down the idea. However, saw the potential in it and asked Hiratake to somehow include the idea in 3D World, just not with Link. So when implementing this idea into 3D World, Hiratake chose Captain Toad from the Super Mario Galaxy games as the lead, due to his heavy backpack, which would prevent him from being able to jump. But also because Captain Toad was an adventurer, so it made sense for him to be looking for treasure. After 3D World was released, Miyamoto was so impressed with Hiratake's Captain Toad levels that he encouraged production of a full game based around the concept, with Hiratake as director of the project. During the game's short development period, the team wanted to take more than full advantage of the game's unique playstyle, and really stretch the limits of what people thought could be possible with such a simple and limited concept. Upon opening the game for the first time, you're thrown right into a level. Here you can walk around a bit with Toadette in order to get used to, moving, and make your way up these ruins where you can collect a star. Once you collect a star, however, both it and Toadette are snatched away by this giant bird Wingo as it flies off, giving Captain Toad his motivation for the game. Usually in any other case, I'd say this opening is disappointing and feels rushed. But come on, it's Captain Toad. You know what you're getting into this game for, you don't need a story. Speaking of stories though, the way you select what levels to play and see your progress on them is shown through a storybook, which I think is a really cute design choice, as it almost feels like Captain Toad is chronicling his journey through this storybook. Getting into the actual levels themselves though, it's pretty obvious from the get-go how much more depth there is to these stages than there was in 3D World. That's not a diss to 3D World's Captain Toad levels at all either. It's just that the ones in this game, even from the very start, get you thinking and experimenting much more than the old ones ever did. And a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that these stages now have a much more linear design. You see, in 3D World, your goal in these levels was to collect all 5 green stars scattered around different areas of the stage. Except, there wasn't one particular green star that was the main to collect and would end the level. You needed to find every single one in order to complete the stage. So, as to not make the levels too difficult for casual players who didn't feel like checking every nook and cranny, these green stars weren't hidden all too well because again, you needed to find them. In Treasure Tracker, however, instead of having 5 required green stars to collect, the game instead has 1 required gold star at the end of the level that follows a somewhat linear path in order to get to, and 3 non-required super gems that are hidden around the stage. And since these 3 super gems are optional, the developers were able to get pretty clever with how these are hidden, a lot of the time forcing you to go out of your way to look for secrets hidden around. The depth in these levels doesn't just stop with the secrets either. As you progress through the game, the ideas and concept introduced to you get much more intricate and sometimes even make the matter of simply completing the level an actual challenge. For example, just look at the level Touchstone Turmoil. In this stage, you use the touch mechanic to move these two platforms around and slowly make your way closer to the star. But what surprised me when playing this level was just how much I was stopping to think. Not just to collect the gems either, but to actually progress towards the star. The game really forces you to think about what your next move is in this level. The solution isn't just obvious right away. I honestly didn't really think the game would make use of the mechanic this well, and it just felt so satisfying to finally figure out what to do and plan on my touches in advance in order to finally reach the star. Or another example of an actually challenging stage can be seen in the level Stumpy Springs Sanctuary, where you're running through tree stumps trying to find a way to reach the inside of the one in the center in order to reach the star, and having to figure out how to get the top part moving. And I mean, if the levels in this game aren't intricate and have you thinking, then they're difficult and have you on your toes. That's right, outside of the much more laid-back style of levels Captain Toad offers, this game also has a healthy variety of stages that have you rushing around to try and beat the clock. Just look at Ghost Gallery Gambit, for example. Here you're running up this tower as poison slowly starts to fill the room from the bottom, with enemies constantly getting in your way that you can't just jump over and instead have to face head-on with your headlight or find a way to get around them. These types of levels don't have you solving puzzles, but they still take great advantage of Captain Toad's limitations anyway. Speaking of Captain Toad's limitations though, along with the depth these stages have when compared to their 3D World counterparts, and just in general, they're also much better catered to Captain Toad's gameplay style. Everything from the aesthetic design to the level design feels specifically crafted for this type of game. You go from the blocky, almost feels like thrown together design of the levels from 3D World, to these beautiful miniature worlds brought alive with so many little details and design choices that make them fit in perfectly with Captain Toad's vibe and gameplay. And instead of the simple slopes and clear pipes that allowed Captain Toad to move around vertically, you now have much more creative set pieces that actually fit in with the level and help immerse you more in the environment. And with how much this game improves upon its levels from 3D World, it doesn't forget its roots and actually incorporates a lot of 3D World's ideas and power-ups into its stages. One of the very first levels in the game, Double Cherry Palace, makes use of, you guessed it, the Double Cherry from 3D World, and has you use it to solve a hedge maze by controlling two toads at once, trying to position them to step on both P-switches at the same time. Or the level Beat Block Sky Plaza, which brings back the beat blocks from 3D World, and has you rushing with Captain Toad to make your way to somewhere safe before the floor beneath you disappears. I love this reintroduction of 3D World ideas because it's not only the game paying homage to where it originated, but also because it reintroduces these ideas in a brand new context. Just look at these rolling hills and twisty-turny planet. In 3D World, these were not a problem for Mario or any character, and were just set pieces you ran past without thinking anything of. However, for Captain Toad, these are a big enough hurdle for him to base an entire stage around, which I love. By saying all this though, it might seem like Treasure Tracker over-relies on 3D World's ideas and concepts. However, that's absolutely not the case, as this game has tons of completely brand new ideas that set it apart from that game. You have new concepts like these seesaw platforms that launch Toad across the stage when spike balls are dropped onto them. New ideas like this stealth level that sees you cleverly avoiding Shy Guys in order to slip through undetected. New level types like the minecart stages that see you going into first person and shooting turnips in order to cause havoc. Hell, the game even has boss fights like this one against Dragodon or this other against Wingo that are very well designed around Captain Toad's limitations and can genuinely be challenging, but for all the right reasons. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is a game that is very easy to discount and ignore because why the hell would they make an entire game based around those stupid levels from 3D World? But when you actually give this game an honest chance and really sit down and see it for what it is, you'll see a game that's chock full of love, care, and creativity. You have so much to keep you coming back to the game. You have the main objective to obviously beat every level, but you also have the 3 super gems in each respective level that a lot of the time have you thinking outside the box or going off the beaten path in order to collect. You have a mission that each stage has that unlocks after you beat it for the first time that often has you looking at the level in a completely different way in order to do the objective. In an update after the game launched, they added a minigame to each level called Find the Pixel Toad, which has you meticulously searching every crevice of the level for a small little pixel toad on the wall that you tap when you find. This game obviously isn't one that'll have you as engaged and immersed as a 3D Mario, nor is its gameplay even close to comparable, But for what it is, which is a cute little puzzle game, there is a surprising amount of depth and creativity present here that, dare I say, is comparable to that of the depth and creativity of a 3D Mario in some ways. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is an absolute underrated gem of a game that deserves to be talked about more. If you haven't tried this game before, please do. I promise you it's worth it.